I will make one. Yeah, I think we're running slow now.
Thank you. May be seated.
Before we go back to where we were, let me ask a question from the jury. Is it standard procedure for police officers who are being investigated to have a lawyer?
If they so choose to have one, yes.
Okay. And that's the same as an ordinary citizen has the right to ask for a lawyer as well?
It's the right of every American citizen, yes.
Okay. Let's go back to where we were. We were talking about they arrive at down at the bottom of the hill, and I asked you whether Defendant Sandy was involved in the decision to call down these officers who were up on the hill, the field officers who were down on the hill. And what we'd like you to do is read. There was a transcript actually made of his statement. Is that right?
That's correct.
And what we'd like you to read is from his answer to that question on page 9 from the marked places from 5 until 18. If you could read his answer to that question.
You want me to read it out loud?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And there's one uniformed officer standing right here with a rifle, and he's the only one that I can see with a rifle. These officers here are standing and talking to him. They didn't have guns drawn. He doesn't have the male subject, doesn't have anything in his hands. Since they doesn't have any guns drawn, we decide because of the position, because of the downhill grade, where they're at, it's not safe for them. That's where Weimer Skirch gets on the radio, and he does two things. First thing he does is he asks Sam 55, Sergeant Carpenter, to pull his officers back.
Okay. And in that statement, what does he say about whether he, Mr. Defendant Sandy, was involved in that decision to pull those officers off?
The statement speaks for itself. If we're talking about the same thing you just read, the statement speaks for itself. Now we're just getting the officers.
Could you repeat the question?
Yes. Does he say that he was involved in the decision to pull the field officers down from their position?
Yes.
Okay. Now, the whole reason that Defendant Sandy got this call was to bring what to the scene?
Taser shotgun.
And what happened when he arrived at the bottom of the hill as far as what he did with his taser shotgun?
He eventually passed it off to Detective Rick Ingram.
And what role did he assume when he passed off the taser shotgun to Detective Rick Ingram?
He was lethal coverage on his rifle.
Okay. And was that his decision that he made to give the taser to Rick Ingram and be lethal coverage?
Yes.
That he made that decision himself?
Yes.
Okay. And is that how Rick Ingram in this picture has two taser shotguns? I'm sorry, you can't see this picture.
I remember the picture.
Remember the picture? Has two taser shotguns and a rifle.
Correct.
How did he get all of those? Why did he have so many devices?
And I'm sorry, I said Detective Rick Ingram. He was the acting sergeant at the time. When he deployed, when he got there and went up to the hill, he had his rifle and his taser shotgun.
So, and Defendant Sandy only had then his rifle as the only long gun he had.
After he passed off his taser shotgun?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. And did some of the taser, still of the taser camera video from McDaniel capture the moment of this call down, where they called the field officers down and away from Mr. Boyd, and brought them down the hill?
Your Honor, it's a mischaracterization of the evidence. I object. She says were they. It was one person that called them down, Your Honor.
No, I think the record speaks for itself, that we made the decision. Okay. Let me hand you to Mark to 7C6. And can you identify that as the moment that the field officers are being brought down the hill there?
Based on the review of the video, this does appear to be around that time, yes.
Okay. And let me also hand, and that's the one from the McDaniel taser cam video?
It appears to be.
Okay, Your Honor, I would move 7C6 into evidence.
For this witness, yes, Your Honor. It's because of what witness she's trying to introduce this to.
Does she's the investigating officer? He knows what it is. Okay. All right, sorry.
Was there an objection as well?
No objection.
With regard to 7C6, it will be admitted.
Okay. So let's put that in for the jury. And what do you see in this picture, Detective Stone?
I see a few things here. This individual right here with the back to you with the police placard right here, that's going to be Acting Sergeant Rick Ingram with the rope team. This right here is State Police Sergeant Christopher Ware. The SWAT officer that you see here just to the left of Sergeant Chris Ware is going to be SWAT Officer Jeff McFarland. And what you're seeing up here are the initial officers that were up there, part of Sergeant Carpenter's responding officers, are walking down the hill away from James Boyd.
Okay, and did the Thixton video camera also capture the moment when Sergeant Carpenter was called down and was having a discussion with those people at the bottom of the hill?
Yes.
Let me hand you to Mark with 32E2. Can you identify that, please?
Yes, it's a still photograph from that camera.
That shows that moment where they called these officers down.
Around that time, that's correct.
All right, I move 32E2, Your Honor.
No objection, Your Honor.
No objection.
32E2 is
And can you tell the jury who these people are in this particular?
Yes, I'll go from probably easiest on this one, go left to right. So this individual right here is SWAT Officer Jeff McFarland. You can only see a portion of Detective Sandy's left shoulder kind of coming down here. You see the RO and then the kind of police placard right there.
He's standing in front, face to face with Sergeant Carpenter?
It doesn't look like they're facing each other, but they're right next to each other, in front of each other.
Okay, and who is Sergeant Carpenter? Can you show Sergeant Carpenter from the field officers?
That's Sergeant Carpenter right there.
Okay, and who else is in this picture?
K-9 Officer Scott Weimerskirch and his police service dog. And then you have Acting Sergeant Rick Ingram. And then this is Open Space Officer Patrick Hernandez.
Okay. And then the last people left standing up there talking, the last field officers left standing up there talking to Mr. Boyd when Sergeant Carpenter got put down. Was that Michael Monette?
Objection leading.
Can you tell me who was the last officer left standing up there talking to Mr. Boyd while this was going on downstairs?
It was Officer McCall-Monet.
Okay, let me hand you to Marcus 32E1, and can you identify that photograph and where that came from?
Yes. Again, it comes from the area of where Alexander Thixton was taking photographs and video. And it's kind of a zoomed out still photograph from around that time.
Okay. And does that depict, why don't you tell the jury what that depicts?
You can see these officers kind of in the lower right-hand corner. You see Officer McCall-Monet still.
You're not using the Elma, so the jury's.
Okay, well, let me move it first, Judge. All right, so let me move 32E1 into evidence.
Any objection to 32E1?
No.
No objection.
32E1 is admitted.
Let me do this, and let's zoom in on part, so can you point out to the jury what you're telling, what you were trying to say up there?
Yeah, sorry. So the last picture that you saw of the officers that I identified, this is the area that they were standing in. They're standing near that main trail that you will see down towards the bottom of the blown up photograph that's next to you. This is Officer McComonet. He's still in the same position approximately where he had been while he's negotiating with James Boyd. This is another cover officer, and at this moment I don't know who that one is. And James Boyd is right here up in his camp area.
Okay. The second officer, was that Brock Nipreth that was still up there, do you know?
I'm not sure.
Okay. And then after did they pull down both Michael Monette and the cover officer?
Eventually.
Let me hand you, it's marked as states 32E3, and can you tell me if this depicts what happened after they pulled the CIT officer down?
It's just a picture of some officers down lower and James Boyd kind of by himself.
Okay. And for a time after they pulled Michael Monette off the scene, was there a conversation between the officers below and with James Boyd?
Yes, there started to be some dialogue.
Okay. Your Honor, I'd move 32E3.
We don't have it, can I see it?
Sure.
No objection, Your Honor.
No objection.
32E3 is amended.
And can you tell the jury what you see there?
Yes. So from the last photograph, you saw the tree, the big tree where these officers were standing, same officers that I've identified before. And as you can see, there's no more field officers up around the area that they had been before. And here is James Boyd up in his camp area, just kind of looking down at the officers.
And is he sitting down in that picture?
Looks like he's sitting or squatting.
Okay. Let me ask you about during the time that Michael Monette was up there. Was he able to get James Boyd to stop pulling his knives out during the hour he was up there?
Objection, lack of foundation, Your Honor. It calls for speculation, therefore.
In reviewing all of this case, you were aware of the different times that Mr. Boyd became agitated and times when he calmed down, were you not?
Yes, it happened quite often.
Okay. And were you aware that as far as him threatening to kill officers, he only threatened to kill the first team of officers, Hernandez and McDaniel, 3 times?
That sounds approximately correct.
And when this group of officers with Michael Monette were here, this group of officers, the field officers were here, and he only ever threatened to kill them 1 time.
Which officers are those? I'm sorry.
The field officers. When the field officers with Michael Monette were there, during that hour they were there, and Michael Monette had started negotiating with him, he only made 1 threat to kill anybody during that time.
It's hard to say based on what particular time period you're talking about, so I don't exactly know.
Okay. Well, when the TAC team arrived, I want to talk to you about the effect it had on Mr. Boyd when this group of people arrived. The TAC officers with the dogs and the SWAT officer. Did Mr. Boyd become more agitated after the TAC, this group of rope officers and dogs arrived?
Your Honor, objection calls for speculation and implies that that was the reason Mr. Boyd got more agitated, that there were police.
Speaking objection, Your Honor.
First way you asked it, sustained.
Changed it to a different question, overruled.
I know it's so late in the day, I've forgotten the second part of my question.
And
How did he react?
And change it so that it's not a leading question.
Okay, how did he react to the arrival of the pulling down of the field officers and Michael Monette and the arrival of this group of guys, the dogs and rope?
Objection calls for speculation.
Overruled.
He did get, there was a point where he got agitated.
Okay, and during the time that they were there, he threatened to kill them 15 times, didn't he?
That's approximately correct.
Okay. During the time that Michael Monette was there with him, with these field officers, Michael Monette was able to get him to stop pulling his knives out, wasn't he?
Objection meeting,
Let me rephrase, Judge. Was Michael Monette able to get him to stop pulling his knives out during the time that he was there?
There was a period of time where he stopped pulling the knives out, that is correct.
Right. And was Michael Monette able to also get him to even take his hands out of his pockets because he was, at that time when he was negotiating with him?
At that time, yes.
Okay. Did Mr. Boyd express concern about his own safety once this new group of rope officers and canine officers arrived?
I didn't hear the question, Your Honor.
Did Mr. Boyd express concern about his own safety after the rope officers and canine officers arrived?
He did express things like that, yes.
Did he express his belief that these officers were there to kill him?
He did express that, yes.
Did he express his fear of this new group of officers?
Yes.
And did he alternate that fear with threats against them?
Yes.
And how would you describe how that went during the time that the rope officers and the canine officers were there?
From the statements that he would make, it would be that he didn't like them there. He was afraid for them being there. But then he would get into being angry and say that he wasn't the one that was going to die that night, and that he would kill them, so forth. And that's kind of how the agitation would go up and down, pretty much throughout the whole thing.
Okay, and he would go from expressing fear to saying I'm going to kill you, and then expressing fear of them again, back and forth, up and down like that. Is that right?
That is true.
Okay, and you have listened to excerpts from Scott Weimerskirch. Well, let me back up. Canine Officer Weimerskirch had a tape himself, did he not?
That's correct.
Were you able to collect that tape?
Yes.
And have you listened to excerpts from that tape and compared it with the transcribed portions of the tape to determine if they were accurate as far as Mr. Boyd expressing fear of these officers?
The statements that I saw on the video did seem accurate.
All right. Your Honor, at this point I would offer to play excerpts from the Scott Weimerskirch tape. This is 10L, N, P, R, and T.
L as in Larry, M as in Mary, P as in Peter, R as in Ralph, T as in Tom.
N as in Nancy instead of M. Mike, would you like to play those?
Any objection?
No, Your Honor, I don't object to any. This is, if I'm understanding correctly, this is the Weimerskirch's taser, camera, footage, audio, and that's it.
And video of,
Right.
of what you can see. You can't really see
anything.
anything.
Put on the-
And words on it as well.
And where is it the corresponding transcript?
There is not a the transcript is the transcript that I think Mr. Robles has provided, and that's where it came from. And besides that, Detective Stone said he's watched these videos, listened to the transcript, and the transcript is accurate.
Is it 10U, the transcript?
Yes, Judge, and we'll move that next, but at this point, we're going to play this with the transcript on the video.
Your Honor, I'm going to object at this point, just because this, I believe, is one of the replacements that they gave us in the last 2 days, because they've given us a number of them. I believe it is, I think, like the time, it's 4 minutes to 5, and I'd like to be able to review this tonight. Maybe I don't have an objection, Paul. The only thing that concerns me is what writing might be on.
Okay, we can start with that in the morning, and I can end with, I've got a question that'll just be a couple more minutes, and then we can
Okay,
end if
so-
you'd like, Judge.
We'll move on.
Okay, and they can review that tonight, and I'll just ask about this one other person I pulled down.
Before you move on,
Yes, Judge?
did you want to address 20A?
Yes, Judge, is that the summary?
I haven't seen it with the changes that we discussed.
Because we haven't been back to our office to make them yet.
Okay.
We will bring it tomorrow morning. We'll bring that tomorrow morning, if that's all right with the court. Let me just ask you about one more thing, Detective, and we'll get you off the stand and get the jury out of here, okay? If we could turn this back on, Judge? This has already been admitted as 39A1. This is the photograph of Officer Perdue from the SWAT team. And can you tell me what Officer Perdue's role was out there that day?
His role during that particular day was to be high ground. And what I mean by high ground is he is a trained SWAT sniper. Every SWAT team will have trained snipers for various reasons. The majority of it is to be quite a distance away from the actual incident or whoever they're dealing with, and preferably not seen by that person. And they will provide cover for those officers who are quite a bit closer to the individual. In this point, James Boyd.
And what is the advantage to having somebody who is not in the action but away from the action?
Couple different things. If I could direct your attention to the picture, you'll see that Officer Jim Perdue has a considerably different looking rifle than any rifle you've seen so far. And this is a bolt-action sniper rifle. I don't know the make and model at this point in time. And it is a different caliber, higher caliber than what the 5.56 is. And as you can see, the scope that he has on the sniper rifle allows him to see quite a bit distance away. And this allows him to do a couple different things. It allows him to actually, again, be pretty far away from James Boyd, but have a pretty clear view of what's going on, a magnified view, like you would be looking through binoculars. And because he's in a position, usually in an elevated position, he may be able to see things that the officers who are closer up can't see, and he can get on the radio and relay this crucial information not only to the officers but to the command post where the SWAT sergeant is.
Okay, and is there an advantage of having somebody who is sort of separate and away from whatever is going on here, making decisions about use of force, for example?
Objection, leading the other.
Sustained.
Is there another advantage to having somebody away from the action?
Objection, leading.
Can you just rephrase it?
Sure. What other advantages are there of having somebody who is not in whatever is happening but is sitting away from it?
In this particular incident, because of the back and forth dialogue with James Boyd, and at this point in time when we're talking about Scott Weimerskirch had kind of taken over negotiating with Boyd, he's not intimately involved in getting sucked into the conversation. He can actually just kind of sit back and watch things. Now he may not be able to hear what's going on, but he can kind of concentrate more on the movement of James Boyd, and he may see something that the other officers may not.
Can you come up here on this diagram that we admitted and show approximately where Mr. Perdue was stationed? If I can even come down here. This is on Exhibit 16.
Are you asking him to mark it or just point?
No, just point to where he was in relation to Mr. Boyd.
Yes, so we're talking about James Boyd is going to be up here with the other officers in this kind of general area. SWAT Officer Jim Perdue was going to be to the south. I don't know the exact distance, but he's going to be in this area over here, kind of tucked away. But so he still had the best view that he could possibly have over here.
And my final question of the day, I'll let you get back there first. Did Jim Perdue ever shoot James Boyd?
No.
That's all the questions I have today, Judge.
Okay. We'll take a recess for the evening, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank you again for your time and your patience today. Sorry again for that delay this morning. But because of the delay this morning, we're going to try to make up some time. So instead of you having you return at 8:50, I'll ask you to show up to the first floor jury assembly room at 8:20, and we'll try to get you assembled and up here by 8:30 to proceed. So just the highlights, that you're not to discuss this case, any of the matters in the case, any of the people involved in this case, with other jurors or with any other person, in any way, not in person, on phone, text messaging, any form, or allow anyone else to discuss this case with you in your presence. You must not conduct any independent research about the case. You have to avoid all publicity that this case may receive. Do not read, listen to, or watch any news accounts of the trial. Do not express any opinion about the case or form any fixed opinion until the case is finally submitted to you for your decision. I very much appreciate you taking all of these instructions seriously, and have a very pleasant evening. Please stand for the jury. Members of the audience, I want to thank you for your behavior today. Everyone complied with the decorum order, and it's greatly appreciated. And we'll be in recess. And